The wait is finally over. Session just released an update, so let's take a look at the skate core overhaul that was mentioned in the 2025 roadmap. But before I get into that, 120 FPS is back. Devs heard the community on how upset they were that 120 had to be removed, so they made some fixes that allowed for 45, 90, and 120 FPS to be back in session. Just make sure that if you're playing at 120 FPS or at 90 that your monitor matches. Otherwise, if you're playing at like 120 and your monitor's only at 60, you're going to get some character stuttering. All right, now let's get into the skate core side of stuff, starting with the experimental menu. I guess we can't get into that because it's gone, but everything that was in the experimental menu has been moved to other settings because they're no longer experimental. For example, lip tricks are now in grind settings. You still have to toggle them off or on. Lip tricks got a little bit of a touch up, but they still work as they did before. When you go to bump back in, if I press the button, I no longer like push to the side. Bumping out of lip tricks used to look awkward, but now they look a little bit smoother. It's a lot more consistent when you want to ride into grinds, and it locks into the grinds or slides a little bit better. However, it does still have some existing issues like pole jams, and it should be noted that getting into blunts is right now, it's pretty much a no-go. You always kind of get locked on the back truck before you get right into them. And rock to fakies are kind of weird right now too. So lip tricks aren't perfect right now, but they're no longer considered experimental, meaning these controls are locked in and this is how it's going to stay. Moving on to the next item that was relocated from the experimental tab is the map layouts and pedestrians. Both of these work exactly how they did before. Nothing was really changed here. And finally, Casper and Primo Slides were moved to flip trick settings. Pretty weird looking flip trick there. Casper Slides and Primo Slides work on manual catch and auto catch, but the one recommendation I have is to set flip speed to either input speed or directional. It is still possible to catch them with auto flip speed. However, it's going to be a lot harder to do. You won't be able to control your flip speed, so it's always going to flip kind of fast and it's going to be a little bit harder to get that timing. So yeah, I personally use input speed and it's just easier to get my timing down. Quick little tutorial on how to do Casper and Primo. So Casper is a single stick input. You can either hold your back foot stick down to catch in normal Casper, or you can flick your front foot stick up and hold it there to do anti-Casper. Now you can do any flip trick that has the board going completely upside down. Just keep in mind that the more advanced flip tricks are going to be much harder to catch. You can also control the pitch of the Casper, so if I push all the way down on my back foot, it's going to be as far up as it can go. And if I release it just a little bit, it can go down. But if you go down too far or you release the stick, you will fall. And to flip out of a Casper or anti-Casper, you can do any flip trick you want. However, some are going to look more natural than others. So an inward heel out of a Casper will look a lot more natural than something like, I don't know, a hard flip. Because obviously the board's going to spin the opposite way. Yeah. And for Primo Slides, it's a dual stick input. So the back foot stick down, front foot stick up when the board is sideways in the air. Now you don't actually have to hold the inputs as soon as you land in Primo. You can just let them go. You can catch a Primo on any side of the board, so we can catch it there, or I can catch it there. And to flip out of a Primo, you can do any flip trick that you want, but just like the Caspers, some are going to look better than others. So you can either do like a normal flip trick, you can do a quick shove out, or there is a special flip trick. It's called Primo Kick. So if you release the sticks and then flick diagonally down, it will do a Primo Kick. You can also flick diagonally up and it'll do it off the nose. And there are now friction sliders in the advanced settings for both Casper and Primo Slides. So let's say I have this on max for Casper Slides. I'm not going to slide that far. If I have this set all the way down, I'm going to slide pretty far. Same goes for Primos. The Casper and Primo catch timings were also adjusted too. So if you're used to them before, they're going to be a little bit different now. The catch timings for Darkslides were also changed, so don't be surprised if they're a little bit harder than you're used to. I'll show you where the window is to catch it. It's roughly about here. It's actually a pretty tough window to get. And speaking of catch timings, the grind input modes actually got to change because of the catch timings that were changed for Caspers and Primos and Darkslides and all that stuff. So if we go to grind settings, you'll notice that there's no longer an option for full release, partial release, and no release because all of those got merged into one. What happened to my pace of speak? So the default base is no release, meaning you don't have to release the inputs after you pop before your grind input or your slide input. But if you do any flip trick, you will need to release the sticks fully before your grind or slide input. So all flip tricks use full release grind input mode, and any pop without a flip will use no release grind input mode. Only if you're on manual catch. If you're on auto catch, you don't have to release the sticks at all if you want to flip right into a grind or slide. This also fixes the issue that if you held your input after any flip trick, that the board will automatically be caught when you're on manual catch. That's no longer the case. And it also fixes the issue on auto catch, where if you do a 360 flip or something and you didn't release the sticks, you will still get a 360 flip instead of it catching automatically at varial flip. There have also been some navigation fixes made in this update that make skating something like this bank, so much better. So before, if I went to go skate this ledge, even if I was like lined up perfectly, it would just pull me up in a unnatural way. But now ramps don't automatically just pull you up unnaturally. Oh, I maybe should have focused there. Banks no longer mess with you, so it's now a lot more consistent to line things up. I'm stoked to finally be able to skate this spot properly. Another little change is if you ride off a drop or a curb, your board doesn't dip down as much. I mean, if you go slower, it's gonna dip a lot more because like you're not going as fast, obviously, but it will level out. And if I go a little bit faster, let's just ride off this. It's like the faster you go, the less your front dips down when you just ride off a curb or a drop or anything. I gotta come to LA map for this because the next little change is pretty awesome. I mean, it's not that cool. It's just like a step in the right direction for transition skating. Let's see if I can get it here though. Okay, you kind of saw it. It wasn't that great. I'll do another one after, but the ramp detection while you're in air got a little bit of love too. And it just makes it better for like transferring ramps. Hang on, let me get a better one. I just did a Christ air. Okay, that's definitely not part of the update. There's no crabs. There it is. All right. So as we get closer to the bank that we're about to land in, it's detecting that, and you can see the body and everything is actually already lined up with it. After coming from all the way over here, it just looks so much more natural. What the fuck? Okay, I was not expecting that. I've never seen that happen. There we go. Holy crap. But yeah, and it's possible to do loops now, so have fun with that. Alright, now let's get into some of the bug fixes and some of the gameplay fixes. I'm really stoked on some of these fixes, and one of them being that your skater no longer hops off the board if you do a catch input like outwards. You know this little hop right here? That bug no longer happens, so you can flick up, you can flick down, you can flick left, you can flick right, it doesn't matter. Every flick will catch the board without issue. And if you do flick outwards with the stick, so right now flicking up with the front foot for this 3 flip, you won't land in a nose manual or a little manual as long as you're, you know, not holding the input down a little bit. Like I held the input right there to purposely get it, but in the last update, even if you just flicked it quick, you would land in a little nose manual. That also does not happen anymore. Boom. And one of the reasons why this little hop was fixed is because you can't do late tricks or 1 foot's like too close to the ground. You can when you're like, you know, above here. But if I try to do a 1 foot like really close to the ground, it just won't do it. You got to do them at your peak. Which brings me to the next thing. 1 foots now work. So the board actually stays attached to the skater instead of being thrown down like it was before. The next little one is the low pops. The low pop ollies and the low pop nollies, they look not as wonky anymore. So like the feet don't bend in a weird way after you pop. So both of those got a nice little little tweak. And the same goes for switch and fakie. They just don't look weird anymore. The issue with the object dropper always selecting any construction lamp that's in a map has been fixed, so you can select anything you want now. It was a big issue in this map, specifically the mall, and in the Creature Skate Park during the Ribsman mission because of this lamp right here that's in the world. So if you're stuck on this mission, you can go back and do it now. Powerslide inputs no longer interfere. Oh, I just did a Primo Power slide inputs no longer interfere with big drop landings, so you can actually hold the inputs if you really wanted to, and you're not just going to shoot straight up. Landing an under-rotated shove no longer causes a glitch state. See? I'm fine. Board slides and lip slides were improved on ledges, so you no longer fall when you do them. You can let that truck hit, and you're not going to fall. Wheel bite friction now actually works, so slow down. The little hop you get after respawning from in air has been fixed, or like, on your way up. No longer happens. The character's feet no longer float when doing a smith or feeble. No magician here. And speaking of smiths and feebles, they have been improved on ledges. So when you pop into them, they don't like dip down like crazy. They stay like locked in. It works so much better now. The knees no longer go through the skater when popping off something steep. So right here, the knees aren't going through the skater anymore. They're not sucking into his body. They're just actually going forward as they should. Actually, there's a better place I can show that. Go to FDR. So like it used to be that if you popped off this wall or anything, steep, your knees would just go right through the skater and like really compress and look all weird. Well, he's kind of daydreaming a little bit. But the knees, look at the knees. It now looks a lot better when you're popping off something really steep. Oh! I guess while I'm here, I'll mention the improved kick turn rate. So the speed of a kick turn has been adjusted. Yeah, pretty good little fix there. We got backside and we got front side. Here's a bug that was fixed I bet you didn't really know about. If you did a side pop into a manual and then popped out, it would remember that side pop and pop you sideways. Well, it doesn't do that anymore. So if you side pop into a manual, it resets and doesn't side pop you out. You can still side pop out of a manual if you want. So you just flick your stick diagonal, your back foot, and then flick up and you'll side pop over. Assuming that you have manual board control on. The indefinite power slide that would occur if you did the power slide input in the air and then, yeah, my brain did that. When you do the power slide input in air and then push the trigger, you don't just keep going forever. You actually stop like a normal power slide. Ooh, yeah, this was a good one. The pelvis snapping when popping out of a manual. So before, when you would go to pop out of a manual, your pelvis and skater would just kind of jerk a little bit. Well, that does not happen anymore. The character jittering when loading an old replay has been fixed. So I'm going to load a really, really old one. And it's going to look weird because this is from before 1.0 released and I had a bench there at that time. And obviously I don't now, but that's not the point. The point is there's no jittering occurring anymore. The nose of the board no longer dips when you pop out of blunts. Going for a closer look here, so when I pop out of the blunt, the nose doesn't just completely dive into the ground as it did before, levels out. And same goes for flip tricks. You gotta flip out, and it just levels out instead of diving down. And this applies to all the blunts, so switch nose blunt, switch blunt, normal nose blunt. They all just level out now when you pop out. The translation for the last task of Rock Ride mission has finally been updated, so anybody that's using other languages can now see what the last task actually is. It's not pressure flip anymore, it's inward heel, and it's not frontside half cab, it's frontside half cab heel. So go do those tricks and you can pass it. And for the last little fix, we need this rail right here. But let's just go for maybe a front board. Go for front board on here. You can actually stay on the kinks now. You don't go flying off. Look at that. Now, it's not just going to be, easy to do. Okay. And obviously, the faster you go, you will still fly off a tiny bit. So yeah, just a little bit of, fly off there. But I still stayed in my grind. I mean, this is a pretty gnarly rail as it is, though. But here, this is, the important part right here. That I actually stay through the kink. I do want to note, though, that 50/50s right now do have a little bit of issue. The devs are aware of this, so Kinked Rails aren't perfect yet. This is the biggest offender right now is the 50/50. They do work on more mellow kinks. The last one I did was a pretty gnarly one. But for the mellow kinks, they do stay locked in a lot better. Oh, that was good. That was perfect. Let me do one more big, gnarly, kinked ledge rail ultimate test right here, because you go so fast. Oh, look at that. That's so much better than it was before. I have big drop landing on. Okay, here we go. There we go, it's good. And then big drop landing. Hey, we got a challenge. And that's everything in this new session update. Let me know in the comments what you think about this update, what you like, what you don't like, all that good stuff, and I will catch you in the next video.